dynamics within a team, right? But before I continue, let me confirm. You guys can hear me clearly, right? You can hear me clearly. Perfect. Perfect.
Yes.
Great. So before I continue, I know Christine has given like an overview of my profile, but I want to highlight something, right? My experience has exposed me to a lot of founders, a lot of startups across different countries. And one thing that I can say is that the problems are very similar. So there is no, that saying that says there's no new thing under the sun. It's the truth. What you might be experiencing right now, someone else has experienced it, solved it, and came out of that trouble. So you're coming to this class expecting that you will find answers to what you're going through, right? Because one of the things I've done is be able to sort of synthesize it with quite a number of case studies. And even throughout the program, we have sessions with guest founders. And some of these founders have teams, they've built massive teams, and they can share with you some of the insight that they've had, right? They've gained over that period of time. So the point is, there's no new thing under the sun. You can literally take every single experience, and I've been able to sort of build like a necessary framework that can help you sort of navigate this, right? So why is it important for us to address this topic? It's important because building a team is not exactly like still waters. It's like the chaotic seas. It's very dynamic. Because you have two individuals with two different backgrounds coming together to build something, you can be sure that things will not always be straightforward. There will be differences that will pop up, right? And it's important for you to know how to manage such scenarios and be ready for such cases, right? So that you don't fall victim of some of the failures that we've seen in the ecosystem, right? It's very, very important. So let's look at some statistics, okay? According to this presentation by Bill Gross at TED Talk, he highlighted the 5 major reasons why startups fail. Timing being at the very top, which is no market news, is a very big deal. If you've already started listening, if you've gone to a startup school, you know that that's something that we teach emphatically, that product market fit is so important. But the second thing after product market fit is the team. So the reason why a lot of startups fail is because they got that team part wrong. They got it wrong. So if you want to make sure, so even if you have a fantastic problem you're trying to solve, your approach to what is genius, but the moment you miss this team part, that's the end. No matter how fantastic that particular product is, that is literally the end. So if we do not address this, then we know that failure is imminent. A research done by Harvard Business School professor Noam Wasserman, he said that 65% of high potential startups, take note, high potential startups fail because of conflict within the team. Because of conflict within the team. So this should raise your antennas, right? This should be like a huge signpost in front of you to make sure that I have to watch out for this. I have to watch it because this can be the singular reason why this company would fail. There are many companies that we've never heard about today simply because of this issue. Because you weren't informed, you weren't educated on how to navigate this issue. You weren't educated. So in addition to supporting founders, I've been able to build three major companies, right? And I have built it with co-founders. I have the company where I built by myself. So I know I've seen the different cases. So in addition to even my experience with other teams, I've been in that space myself. So I know when failure is at hand, and I know how to sort of navigate those issues. And we're going to talk through every single layer. My challenge right now is how to do all of this in 1 hour 30 minutes, but so help me God. Let's start. So first thing we need to recognize is that when your team breaks up, it can be really bloody. It can be really bloody to the point where some people kill each other. Other cases, they go to courts for many years because of that particular case. And the thing about it is that, for the case of a startup, it's very, very, very unique. It's different. You can say it's quite similar to marriage, but because there is the company involved in the whole conversation, it just makes the dynamic very, very unique. And so it's really important that we lay this foundation. So we're going to start by looking at what we call human interaction chart. So the human interaction chart or map helps you understand how relationships and interactions interplay within a startup team. It helps you understand how relationships interplay within a startup team. So this is what it looks like. So at the very core, you see that there is the core team involved. And then after that, you have the advisors, then you have the employees, and then you have investors and strategic partners. Some investors might find themselves in the advisor level. So other investors are just on the investor level that you share updates with. So there is a flow and a hierarchy of interactions within a startup team, within a company, within a startup. So you would see at the very core of it, you can break up with your advisors and you may not have so much impact as you breaking up with your core team. The same thing goes on and on. So that's the essence of this chart, for you to realize that you have different levels of individuals that you're interacting with. So a company is literally built around the pillars of human beings, around the pillars of people. So you need to know how to manage people, from your core co-founding team to your advisors, to your employees, to your strategic partners. Okay? Why do you need a startup team? It may seem like a no-brainer, but I think so many people are not aware of the benefits of having a startup team and the risk of not having one. You need a startup team because whatever problem you're trying to solve, you cannot solve it alone. You know that man that has a shop and only him is the only one that we see in the morning, is the only one that we see going out at night. He's the only one that's built the business, and when he's really old, he dies, the shop closes down. And that's because he was not able to build a team around that business. So if right now you look at whatever you're working on, for those who have active startups or companies, if you are the only one, morning till night, you are not doing yourself, you're doing yourself a disservice. Whatever you're building would not survive. Because once you are gone, that's the end. So you build a startup team because, one, you need complementary skills. You cannot do it alone. There's only so much you know. You have specific strengths. You need other people that can balance you very well. So for those who already have startup teams, within the Launchpad program, think about the people that are on your startup team. You need those people because they balance you. You need people that can balance you. So if you're good with marketing, somebody else is good with product development. If you're good with sales, somebody else is good with technology. That diverse perspective is really important, and it fosters innovation. It fosters creativity and problem solving. You'll be more effective as a team because now you can collaborate and the workload is shared, right? There is some form of shared responsibility and decision making. Everybody's viewpoint is sort of leveraged. So you don't have a singular perspective of what the future is. You have different people that can help you paint that picture. You're not the only one driving the final decision. There's a platform for different ideas to be checked and seen. There's even a level of accountability that you will have. The man that is going to a shop, one day he can decide not to go to a shop and just stay at home, and nobody is there to even motivate or put him on some form of accountability structure. You need a team. If you do not know this, know it now. Even when you're thinking about expansion, you need a team. A team literally builds some form of credibility for yourself. It helps you scale. You can grow faster. See, if you do not have a team, you will definitely burn out. You will burn out. You burn out because you're the only one thinking, you're the only one doing, you're the customer service person, you're the what's it called? The person building the website, you're the one coming up with the idea. It's only you. Everything is just on you. You're going to burn out. You're going to burn out. You cannot do anything, especially if you're thinking about building a company that's supposed to scale really big. You can't afford to do it alone. You need diverse perspective. You need people that can give you different insights, different ways of approaching things. There's no way you will be able to scale. There's this company in the UK that I worked for. It's a family business. They've been around for over 150 years. Now, that the concept of having a business, a family business that's been around for over 100 years, scaling across different countries, in the UK, it's not a new concept. It's a normal thing. You see more family businesses living so long because they have this understanding that when you're thinking about scalability, when you're thinking about longevity, you need to find a way to build a team around it. Succession plan is important. You cannot do it all by yourself. You cannot handle the demands of scaling operations. You cannot handle the bottlenecks, the inefficiencies, the resources that you need. You cannot do it alone. There's a very high chance that you would fail if you don't start thinking about your startup team. So what are the different types of teams that exist? Because there are different types. Two major categories of startup teams that exist are co-founding team and solo founding team. It is really important that you understand the distinction between the both of them, because it will help you understand where you are, especially what your company needs, where you are, what you're capable of handling, and what fits you specifically, especially as the person who came up with the idea or spotted the problem to solve. So for the co-founding team, a co-founding team is literally a group of two or more individuals who come together to start a business, a company, or a startup in this case. So two or more, yes, you can have a case of like 5 people, so 2 or more, but try as much as possible not to make it read like 7. Once you start seeing 7 co-founders, I remember a startup founder reached out to me via DM on Instagram, was like, oh, he's trying to work on this and he's having some issues. So we get on the call and we're having discussion, and I ask him, okay, tell me about your team. And then he begins to mention up to 7 people, and all of them are co-founders. And guess what? There's no single product in the market. There's no revenue that have been generated, and everybody's carrying title, CMO, CEO, CEO. And then nobody's doing the work. That was the challenge that he was having. Everybody has title, but nobody's doing the work. So yes, you can have a lot more, but anyway, we'll talk about how to handle such cases, right? But yes, a co-founding team, back to the context, a co-founding team is a group of 2 or more individuals who come together to start a business. They collaborate on the vision, they collaborate, so they are there at the early stage. They're involved in the birthing of the idea itself, right? They collaborate on the execution, on strategy. They pull from their resources, their skills, their network, and each co-founder has like a specific responsibility, but most importantly, there's shared ownership and risk in the business. This is very different from the case of a solo founding team. In the case of a solo founding team, it's just a singular individual who starts and leads a business. So in the solo founding team, it's just one person that starts, leads a business, and then because the person is deciding on the vision, making the key decision, taking most of the risk, all of the risk in the business, but then hires a team, right, later, right, and builds a team around that particular vision. So at the very beginning, it's just the founder. And then as it grows, it gets a team. So no, the team members can leave at any time. There's no shared ownership in the business, right? So there are major key differences, and those key differences sort of expose you to the pros and cons of the two sides. So it is left for you to now decide what works, for me, what works for the vision, what works for where we're going to, right? So for a co-founding team, when it comes to decision making, that decisions are shared, right? And you often require consensus. You have to get everybody on the same page. The moment there's that disunity, that's when you begin to see the rift, right? So decisions are made on a consensus basis. The solo founding team, decision made by the founder, which means there's faster execution, but there's also like higher personal accountability, because now you are the one that decided that that's the way to go. And so if anything flops, it's on you, right? Because you said that's the direction, right? For co-founding team, there's complementary skills and expertise. I trust you're taking notes, right? It's complementary skills and expertise going on. However, in a solo founding team, it relies heavily on the founder's skill. It relies heavily on your capacity. So this means that you now have to fill the gaps that you have by hiring and getting a team together, or by outsourcing. Okay. Now, when it comes to decision making and like support systems, co-founders tend to like provide each other with emotional support and strategic and operational support. So because all of you have like a piece or a share of the business, there is that expectation that you are to be there for each other, right? Like in marriage. In the case of a solo founding team, the founder is the one that faces, isolation in decision making. And you as a solo founder, you need to learn how to manage stress, right? Also, as a solo founder, you are bearing all the risk and the responsibilities alone. But in the case of co-founders, all of you guys are both sharing the risk, both financial risk, emotional risk, operational risk. It's basically the both of you. And then ownership is divided across, there's equity that is being shared. And if there's any disagreement that occurs, you guys have to leverage conflict resolution skills as soon as possible. Okay, so these are some of the things that you need to bear in mind. As you're thinking about this, you're thinking of, okay, what life would work for my own startup or for my own team? There are different advantages and disadvantages. Like if you, for example, like in the case of the company, that I have a co-founding team, we share workload and we come from 3 different backgrounds. So that diversity in our background is really important. It really shows like our strength, things that I don't consider a strength. Somebody else, is a strength in that area. There's also, mutual accountability. Like we know what we have tasks for the week, we have tasks for the month, we have goals that we're trying to achieve, and we know everybody's roles and responsibilities, right? And in terms of challenges, I mean, obviously, by the time I teach you some of the things to apply, most co-founding teams have like power struggles, right? Most co-founding teams, and that's because the foundation was not laid properly, right? The foundation is laid properly. Power struggles is never should be an issue if the foundation is laid properly for co-founding teams. So sometimes also for co-founding teams, there's misaligned values. And like I said again, if the foundation was laid properly, you won't have that case, right? And because of that, you spend more time trying to resolve conflict than actually build the company. I remember one of the startup teams at the Launchpad, they had conflicts within the team. And so the first 3 meetings of the program, we had to focus on just addressing the conflict. We had to just focus on addressing the conflict because we're not going to go anywhere with anything regarding what they wanted to build if that was unresolved. And until they got clarity in that area, we could move forward. So that's what happens, right, in co-founding team. I mean, for solo founding team, you have creative control. You can make decisions, you you can execute quickly. Once the idea drops, you start taking steps in that direction. You don't have to negotiate equity or leadership roles. But then there's a risk of you burning out, right? So like in my case, they're a company where I'm the solo founder, right? I have been able to build systems to ensure that I don't burn out, right? And in situations of, limited perspective, I leverage a system to ensure that I have multiple sides to a picture, right? So these are all the things I'm going to teach you. So yes, there are advantages and disadvantages, but you can put systems in place to ensure that you don't experience those challenges, okay? So let's look at some examples of co-founding team. I want us to do something. I want us to look at this picture and let me know which of these co-founding team do you recognize? So put it in the chat box. Which of these co-founding teams do you recognize? Which of these co-founding teams do you recognize? Anybody? At least there should be one that that you should be very familiar with. So use the chat box. Use the chat box. Let's do it together. Which of these co-founding teams? These are co-founders of major companies. Microsoft is where? So let's call this, let's make it easier. Let's call this A, B, C, D. Okay, I'll take that again. A, B, C, D. Google is A. Perfect. Yes, Google is A. That's very good. Somebody wrote the full name, Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Well done. Top right, B. Yes, that's Microsoft. That's Bill Gates and Page Allen. Okay. What about the bottom two? Bottom two. Somebody should try. Uber. Where's Uber? Is Uber here? Is it A, B, C, or D? I mean, A and B has been identified. So C and D is still left unchecked. Bottom right, Airbnb. That's very good. Brian Chesky. Airbnb, very good. So that means the last one is what? Is B. What is B? Oh, sorry, C. What is C? Who are the co-founders there? Who are the co-founders there? Anybody? That's the last one. The co-founding team, C. Okay. All right. So I guess I'll just say it. So Ibrahim Yusuf, yes, you're correct. Uber. That is Uber, Travis, and his co-founders. Okay. So as you can see, there are major companies that have been built by co-founding teams, right? The major companies have been built. These people, we know them, we know the companies that they've built, and they did it together as a unit. So that entire explanation that I gave to you, they had that relationship, equity is being shared, roles are being shared vision, working together, emotional support. They all provided this is what they did for each other while they're together. So let's look at Africa, co-founding team. I mean, the titles are already in the image, but let's see. We have Andela on the left-hand side. We have Kuda Bank in the middle, and we have Chowdeck. These are companies that we know. Does anybody want to try and give me another African company that was started by a co-founding team? Anybody? Africa co-founding team. Old school, Paystack, Piggyverse. Oh yeah, Piggyverse has quite a number of people in their co-founding team. But yeah, Buy Power, very good, very good. Flutterwave. So you see, it is very possible to build a massive, impactful company with co-founders. So it's possible. So don't think that challenges come, you are now the only one that would experience the challenges and your team will break up. No, if you put the right systems and structures in place, like I will teach in today's class, you will attain success. So let's look at some of the examples of solo founding teams. Okay, who can identify the people here? Identify the people here. These are quite popular people, so I shouldn't expect that we would have a hassle identifying them. Tesla, Amazon, Mark Zuckerberg, very good. Meta, great. You guys are doing well. Mr. X, Mr. X, Elon Musk. Yeah, that's it. But there are two guys there, two people there. Okay, let me give you a hint. These are people that founded Zoom and Dell. Anybody who founded Zoom, who founded Dell in the remaining two? You guys have Michael Dell. That was quite easy. Okay, and then who founded Zoom? Who is the guy that founded Zoom? What's his name? It's obviously the Chinese guy. Come on, you guys can do it. I know you can do it. Anybody? Okay, I know he's not a very popular guy, but he's Eric, right? Eric Yuan. All right, John, well done. So you see that these people single-handedly within a solo founding team built massive companies. And as a matter of fact, 3 of them are billionaires. Oh, that's so interesting. So this is Mark, this is Eric, this is Jeff, this is Michael, and this is Elon. Still, I'm calling their first names like we are best friends. But yeah, these are the people that built massive companies that we know and use. Mark Zuckerberg, we know and we use all of his products, WhatsApp, Instagram. Jeff, big guy, Elon Musk, Twitter, and SpaceX, and many more, Tesla, right? So it's possible. So don't think it's possible. It's not possible for you to build a company as a solo founder. So like I said, even though the challenges are there, if you put the right system in place, you can get the result. Okay? So let's look at Nigeria and Africa as a whole. Can anybody identify these people? Okay, let me just give you company names. You can identify the companies. We have Iroko TV, we have ULesson and Konga, we have InterSwitch. So who wants to give me their names? All right, very good. They are not, they're quite hard to find, if I'm being honest. That's the reason why we need you, okay, Tochi, okay? That's why we need you. That's why we need you to build, okay, so that you can be used as an example. Trust me, I was very intentional about finding, a female, team. But, I mean, in this sense of a startup, there are many companies that have been built by women, right? But in terms of, it's like Ebony Life is a woman, right? So, but in terms of like the space of startups, we need more women in that space. Okay. So Sim Sagaya, yes, Ulessin, Michael. I know him as Mitchell. How come Michael? Let me confirm. I know him as Mitchell. Just want to make sure that you guys have the right information. Yeah. Mitchell, yeah, that's it. That's him. It's not Michael, Mitchell. Okay, John. InterSwitch. Okay. And then we have Jason Njoku of Iroko TV. So you see that it is possible. Okay. Both sides can be done. You just need to understand what the risks are and start building and putting those systems in place. So before I even talk about the tension that happens within a team, For the case of a solo founder, right? If we want to use, Jeff Bezos as an example, I'm particularly interested in solo founding because there's not a lot of content and conversations around solo founding teams, right? So it is possible to build on both sides. So if you use Jeff Bezos as an example, um, Jeff Bezos is a solo founder, right? But he did not build the company alone. He had several, in this case, co-creators or startup teams members, right? Like one of his early employees, Paul Davies. And Paul Davies oversaw the back end development of Amazon. There's even another guy called Tom that helped with the customer service department. There's another person called Shell, that really helped him. So these are people that he has even highlighted in some of his sessions, like some of his interviews. This is already giving you a hint of specific systems that you need to put in place if you're going to go the route of a solo founder. So the system that you have to put in place, more or less like a support system, is you have to get the right employees. We're going to talk about how to hire right? So get the right employees if you're a revenue generating startup or volunteers or interns, right? Can you hear me? Yes. Yes. So I thought someone dropped a message. So like I said, if you have any question, I don't think I mentioned that. If you have any question, just let me know. But yeah, getting employees or interns or volunteers who are passionate about the same problem you're trying to solve can also help. It's also a very important support system. Having friends or benefactors, you can have a friend that just wants to help you. Person is already working somewhere, earning well, but has like spare time to support or help you with little things. You need to leverage that, which is also why it's good to be a good person. If you're wicked to people, nobody wants to help you. So, but if you're kind to people and you're caring to people, when they see that you're working on something and they're interested in it, and they have spare time and then they cannot leave their full job, they can offer their time to you for free, right? It's not a co-founding team. It's a support system within your solo founding team, right? Also having partners, have a situation where you can build a really large company where you're not the one doing everything because you leverage your partnerships. So your partner does the execution. You just attend meetings and play based on your strength. So there are specific startups that have been built out of that kind of a structure, right? And then last but not least, which is so important, your advisors. It's really important that you build out, an advisory board, a system of advisory. That's for those who are solo founders. That's the only way you can survive. Remember that point that was raised about, solo founders not having different perspective. By the time you build an advisory board and you share with your advisors, you can get different perspectives. And then even within your team, if you lead really well, which we're going to talk about really soon, you'll be able to build a culture that allows people to share their opinions and their ideas, right? Allowing you to really build, that company effectively. Okay, so it's important. Once you have these co-creators in this situation, people that can help you, that can offer you things that co-founders cannot offer, or not cannot offer, that might offer, right? Without even requiring you to give up control of the business or deal with the tension of co-founding team, you can do that. But if you're also, like I said, in the other situation, your co-founding team, if you put the right systems in place, that's a very big plus for you, right? So one thing you can see is the line that crosses on both parties, that you need people. You need people. Either people coming to you as co-founders or people coming to you as part of your team or support system. You need people. Don't even try to build any company alone. You need people. So let's start by looking at tension, right? So tension with a startup team is something that is common. Tension is basically, like I highlighted earlier on, tension happens when two people from two different perspectives, collide on a particular matter. And it's possible. We are not the same human beings. We don't come from the same background. We don't have the same experiences. So we don't expect to have the same thoughts or views or perspective towards a particular matter. And so wherever there are two or more people involved in an activity, the differences in their lives will show up. So within a startup team, it may be different, right? But it's always the same. In marriage, in friendship, no matter what it is, there will always be tension. So how do you deal with tension in the two different categories of startup teams? So how do you deal with tension in those? What kind of tension can exist within a solo founding team? This is so important. So start taking notes, especially for those, if you have co-founders already in the room, start thinking about it. These are one of the cases that can bring a lot of challenges, to you. First case scenario, mismatched expectations. This is so important. The fact that, especially for those who have not had conversations about this, which is already a big red flag, right? If you have not had conversations about it, let this class be a pointer to you. The moment you start having differences in expectations basically is, somebody in his or her mind expect that you do something, but the person did not communicate it. And so when the person doesn't do what you are thinking the person should do, there's a mismatch of expectation. Okay, so what happens when we have mismatch of expectation in co-founding team? It's usually around roles and responsibilities. It's usually around commitment to time. Oh, this person is committing, more time than the other person. Those are the things that can lead to conflict and be like, oh, this person, you're not doing much, but I'm doing much. We will talk about that. We'll talk about it. So to be able to address mismatched expectations, it's communication. Talk about it. Don't keep anything. Don't keep it. You guys are adults. Don't keep anything in your mind and be like, this person not doing this person. Talk about it like, these are the things I'm observing, and make sure that it's an open, honest conversation. And guess what? Talk about the expectations very early on. This is what we expect you to. This is, in this our co-founding team. This is what we expect from each other. This is how much we're supposed to contribute. If it's about money, this is how much time. Okay. So for example, the company called Paga, when they were starting, they were about 5 in number, and they were all working, but all of them could not commit the same amount of time. Not only because they were working, but they also have like family. But one person, his name is in my head, I just can't say it out right now, but the main person that we always see, right? That guy was one that said, okay, I'm going to leave my job. I'm going to step down so I can fully commit. While you guys bring money, I will be the one doing the active work. They had the conversation about it very early on. So make sure that you guys have talked about this. Disagreements about financial matters is always a big issue, especially around equity distribution, how much equity, when it comes to funding, when it comes to allocating resources or even salary, those things can strain your relationship. So make sure that from the very beginning, you have a fair agreement. And we're going to talk about how to go about it, okay? Another issue that can pop up is decision-making style. So one person is like is like that person that likes to get a consensus or lets everybody's perspective be heard. Another person is like the authoritarian, my way and my way alone. It happens because everybody comes from different background. You might have gone through one trauma or the other that makes you think that you can get things done by being authoritative, or being a dictator. So that can cause a clash. That can actually cause it. So you need to discover what are some of the unique differences between the both of you in your approach to decision making. Do you like to get everybody's perspective before you decide, or do you like your voice to be heard first? Do you understand? This is so important. there's a particular co-founding team. We're going to meet him, co-founder. We're going to meet him, right, on the guest founder session. When he started the company that he built, he was one that came up with the idea. He was one that pulled the team together, but he willingly let go of the CEO position to somebody else. This is so important because other people, they want that title. They want to be out there. They want to be the one making the decision. They want, because getting the CEO title meant that that person had a higher voting power. It also meant that that person had a little more equity than every other person because of that CEO title, right? Which we're going to talk about pretty soon. I'm looking at the time. I'm sure we'll cover it. I'm sure we'll cover it. But yeah, decision making is really important. Another issue that can pop up is workload imbalance. If somebody feels like I'm doing more work than the other person, resentment can grow. It can. It's so subtle. It's so subtle. And if you guys don't communicate about this, about your contributions, and address these concerns early enough, and these workload imbalances pop up, especially remember, I'm focusing on co-founding team. It can affect your relationship, it can affect your team, and eventually can affect your startup. So there's a particular startup, Neptune, right? The co-founder was telling me the story of how they broke up. When they first started the team, he was one that had the idea. He was one that pulled his co-founder into that particular startup so that they can build together. So according to the role differentiation, he was supposed to be responsible for managing the team, getting the team together, empowering the interns, building the company culture, especially on execution. And that person was great at sales. So the person was going to be involved in closing deals, getting money for the business, right? Getting projects so that they can execute on the business, on the company, right? In company. And then after a while, the person that was getting the deal started having that thing in his mind, like, I'm the one bringing all of the money, if not most of the money, if not all of the money into the business. All you're doing is just managing 10, you're collecting salary. I think, and you're getting more equity than me. I don't think it's fair. I should have more equity because I'm bringing more money. And that was the beginning of the rift between them. They had a conversation about it. The guy was not willing to, bend. He wanted to have more equity. So what did the guy do? This person I'm talking about let go of the company into the hands of that person and say, okay, this is what you want to do. That's fine. I was the one that started the company. I was the one that brought you in, but this is what you desire. All right, take 100%. And he left and went on to do something else. So imagine the potential of what that company will have been, early on, if the foundation was not laid properly. So this is such a big issue, right? Personal conflicts, even down to external challenges like market fluctuations, those things can frustrate you and your team members. Unexpected competition, some shift in the industry trend can create some form of stress or disagreement on how to sort of adapt and navigate challenge. You guys need to have a conversation about how to decide on things usually in those cases. So in the case of this other founder, which we're going to be interacting with the startup team, there were about 4 of them. And their decision, their final take was that if there's a situation where they're trying to find what direction to take, maybe we have like a tie. This person we have maybe A and B choice. One person is choosing A, the other set are choosing B, and we're in a tie. According to the rule that they set for themselves at the beginning, they said if they're in a tie, the CEO's decision is the one that directs what decision they would make. You get that? So that was a big help for them because they had many cases where they had to decide on a lot of things. The company later got acquired, right? So it was a huge decision because some part of the team wanted to continue building, the other part wanted to sell, and they had to decide what direction to go. So you can see that deciding on this issue early enough on how decisions should be made within the team is super important. I hope you're taking notes. And I think maybe the final one for co-founding team is when there's a lack of trust. I think that's just like the major issue. when there's a lack of trust, when you don't trust the person's decision to lead the company, when you don't trust each other, finances can always be an issue. When you don't trust each other, that can affect this partnership, because you now begin to have suspicions. You no longer be collaborating. There'll be a lot of micromanagement. Those things pop up. And it's always important for you as a person. This is not for you to be pointing fingers at another person in your team. You're supposed to be checking yourself, check your heart. Be checking your heart. Okay, is this how I'm thinking towards this other person? If I'm thinking towards this way, maybe I should talk to the person. Maybe I should put some systems in place to make sure that this was happening, because little foxes do spoil the vine. And so that's for co-founding relationships. Okay. So in the case of, please, can we mute our mics? I need muted mics in this class. Okay. So any questions so far? Any questions so far before I continue? If you have questions, just put it in the chat box. Okay, put it in the chat box. I'll come back to it. Looking at time. Solo founding team. What kind of tension can occur within a solo founding team? What kind of tension? So remember, solo founding team, you have like early employees, or you have interns, or you have volunteers. So what kind of disagreement can happen within that kind of team? First and foremost one is just lack of clear communication, or just misunderstanding of your expectations of the task that you're giving to that intern or giving to that employee. If the person does not, if there is a miscommunication on even the goals of the company, that can lead to disagreement. So you want to make sure that from the very beginning, you're very clear on this is what you're supposed to do. We're going to talk about how to hire properly. Then when the role that you're giving the person is a bit ambiguous, there is no clear job role or title, you just anything goes. No, that can actually cause frustration for the person, because you need to understand that person is joining you because they want to advance their career. They have where they are going to, and you are like a bus stop, that they step into, build their capacity, advance or grow in a particular career before they move on. And I think that's something to also recognize. People move on. You should be fine with it, especially as a solo founder in that kind of a team structure. People do move on. Yes, you have people that will stay with you for years. We have a particular founder that stayed with the Facebook founder for over 20 years, as old as the company itself. So yes, you have people that will stay with you, but you also have people that won't. So to put a balance or lay the right foundation, make sure that there is clear role specifications, clear roles and responsibilities outlined as what we expect from them to do. Make sure that there's no expectation misalignment around like work hours, career growth, their work style, the vision of the company, because that can lead to conflict. Make sure that, and you can see all of these things have to do with expectation, vision, roles. Compensation issues is also another thing. Let it be very clear what you're capable of handling, because remember, this is not a co-founding team where salary is not a big conversation. There's the idea that once the company is earning enough, it should be able to now cover the basic salary, right? And that is determined by the revenue generated. So as a co-founder, you're basically working for free, right? Throughout the lifetime of the company. Some co-founders that don't take money from the company for as long as it exists, right? So, but in the case of a solo founding team where you have interns, volunteers, employees, you need to be able to agree on what you're capable of handling. If you can handle a salary, if you can handle bonuses, if you can handle, whatever you can handle that can ensure that everybody's on the same page. Okay, this is what we're capable of handling right now. Do you get? It reduces the tension. Make sure you're very transparent about the packages that are available, right? So that there will not be any misunderstanding. Make sure that there is some form of feedback. Some of you guys create an environment where everybody is just uptight. Stop that. Make sure you give room for people to share their thoughts, to give feedback, right? Recognize people when they do something good. You know, when you run performance reviews, and so for some of you, I don't know if you even do that. You should. Hopefully with time we're able to talk about it, right? You should. You should. And when someone does well, praise the person in front of every other person, right? Praise the person. Praise the person. And guess what? Whenever you encounter any challenges along the way, maybe there's resource constraints and you cannot afford to pay as much, you have discussion. I remember one of the companies I started for, we had to make a very big decision that required us to shut down for about 3 months before we come back. I had to call everybody. It was a very sad, moving day at the same time. Called everybody. Some people joined online, because they were not in the city at that time. And I told them, this is what's going on. The route we're taking is not going to, there's a need for us to change direction. And when we change direction, this is what we'll be able to do, and this is the timeline where we are hoping to be able to achieve that. Based on that, we cannot afford to pay anybody a consistent salary within that period. If you are willing to stay in the company during that period of time, you are welcome to stay. If you think this is not the best fit for you right now, and you want to be on break, and whenever we return, we can always call you back to join us when there's space. Fine. And trust me, once that whole conversation, we had it, only 3 people stayed behind out of there were about 8 at that time. And those 3 people are still with me till now. So make sure that you are just very transparent and open. Create a very supportive environment. That's one of the biggest things that can make people work with you, when you create a very supportive environment, an open environment. So if you don't used to do it now, make sure you do. Make sure you do. Okay? All right. So let's move quickly to co-founding relationships. We're going to talk about how to select a co-founder, right? How to spot one, how to select the person. When you are done selecting the person, what do you do next? We're going to talk about the elephant in the room, which is splitting equity. How do you split equity? Do you just give everybody any amount, or is there a process for doing that? Yes, there is a process. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to define roles within the team. Okay, it's very important. We're also going to talk about how to maintain energy and motivation within the team. And then we're going to wrap up with managing company culture. And within managing company culture, we're going to look at how to attract the right talent, right? How to put structures and systems in place to ensure that the talents are able to sort of thrive. And you also need to understand human behavior, because by understanding human behavior, you'll be able to manage and build the right culture. And then we're going to also talk about building an effective company culture. So I want to take a break by asking you guys, and I would love to get responses. How many of you here have had to deal with maybe co-founding relationships in your past life? So that means it may not be the one that you're in right now, except if you want to share, which is fine, right? If your co-founders are here and they're fine with you sharing. But if you have maybe like a past life, maybe it's a different company you wanted to start with someone else before, but then it didn't work out. I want you to talk about what happened, right? Why didn't that work out? What were some of the challenges that popped up? If we even talked about it here, can highlight some of the challenges that we've talked about. So just raise your hand and I will let you speak. Okay? Or nobody here has had past, Ayo has had a past life. All right, Ayo, please take the floor. Tell us about your previous co-founding team and what led to the breakup.
All right, good evening. It has been a very wonderful session. We're doing tech basically. It was a tech startup. We're 3 guys. I was in charge of operation. The other guy was in charge of web development. Now, just as you've been saying, we had a lot of trust issues already, you understand? And, what actually caused that breakup was, the wrong person sitting in the wrong room doing the wrong thing, you understand? And yeah, we just had, just like you said in the beginning, bad blood started happening. Okay, let me give you like a clear example. What we wanted to do, we had an investor we gave us 60 million down payment. We built an app and we rented an office, hired people, and started running the business. And the co-founder, so to speak, was supposed to be the chief operating officer. He had no clue about running as a chief operating officer. He's just supposed to be the dev guy. You understand? But yeah, because of how it was, they said, let's make him the chief operating officer. So he kept on failing. He kept on failing. We were supposed to launch, we didn't launch. We were supposed to put people in the app, we couldn't put people in the app, and he was just covering it up. You understand? He was just covering it up until everywhere went viral. Like, okay, the investor was like saying, okay, let's have a report of how we, what is happening, how we get the money back, how many people, and that is where we now started finding out that by a timeline, because we had like a milestone by so time, we're expecting that a lot of vendors should be in the app. We didn't even have one vendor because we're doing food delivery. We bought about 40 bikes. You understand? We're doing food delivery. So we bought about 40 bikes and we needed vendors, and we're looking for people to come to the app to order food. You understand? So this guy, he will dress well, go out every day. You think he's doing something. He's not doing anything. He will just go out, waste time, come back. You understand? I'll tell you all is well. But when you run that over like 2 or 3 months, you find out that nothing has been done. Okay, let's launch now. We couldn't launch. And at the end of the day, that is how the investor said we are not serious and he was going to pull out. You understand? And you see that word bad blood. I almost killed the guy because I saw it like an opportunity that, really few people will have the opportunity to see an angel investor investing in a startup that, you understand, putting all his money, putting his effort, putting his own connect to push the dream of, few young guys that were ready to, you understand, do something. So you see, when you say this team, it killed the business because we didn't get it right, and that is how we ended. You understand? So for me, putting right people, that's why I'm really paying attention. Putting right people in the right place, it's very, very, very important. I just want to learn how you see this part. You said, what is the qualities of a co-founder? I believe I don't know that, because if I know that, I wouldn't have, made such a mistake, so to speak. You understand? But in the past, basically, that was the mistake we made. We got money, we got traction, we got people, we Juvenic, we had everything going, but people doing the things were the problem. Again, social marketing manager, that guy was just another crazy person again. You understand? So when you put all these things together, you see that is what made the business fail. The team was not right at all. We just got it wrong. So from my own point of view, that is the past, and that is why I'm here. I've done subsequent businesses. Yeah, it's just funding that is the problem now. You understand? How do we get people to fund? That's where we are right now. But so far, so good. We are here. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Ayo. That's such a very moving experience. I can see a lot of comments in the chat box. It can get that serious. It can get that serious. And we're going to explore a lot more of that when we discuss, right? So Faith, I saw your hands were up. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Really grateful to be here. So, in my case, my startup hasn't reached that stage where, an investor drops 60 million. I can imagine how the last speaker felt, is feeling actually. In my case, I wanted to get a co-founder. So we had several conversations, and they were giving really good vibes at the beginning. But our major issue came when it comes to equity. I wouldn't know whether at the time I didn't have, the right knowledge about equity sharing. So my ears are going to be wide open when you start talking about equity sharing. If there's a formula, I would like to know that formula. But the first indication I got that made me feel like this person wasn't the right co-founder, and it was entirely based on my sixth sense. There was no experience I had about it. I just saw that they were gunning for money. It was supposed to be one partner, but there were two, or one co-founder, but there were two, and they were gunning for money, for so much money at the onset. This is a startup that hadn't even started generating a dime. We didn't even have one investor, but they were promising to bring in investors, which up till today, they haven't brought anyone. But they were asking me to pay some ridiculous amounts of money, and they wanted me to commit to doing that at that time. So I just had this really negative feeling about it. And I was trying to say that, look, we have a very great business here. We've got feedback from so many people. This is fantastic. It was a tech company. It's a tech company. We had this fantastic idea, and we were getting fantastic feedback from people. I said, look, let us give this time. And I said the time will come where we can talk equity, and it will be worth your while, But I'm learning now from this session that there needs to be some kind of structured decision making regarding equity. That before we can even have that upfront discussion, there needs to be some clarity, because in my case is a solo founder situation. So I was saying, look, there is marketing, there's sales, there is a tech aspect. There's so many things I need to do. I understood that I couldn't do it on my own. I needed to leverage what you have called complementary skills. I know I needed that. And these people seemed like they were skilled. But the way they went about this equity thing, it blew me off. So at the end of the day, I called it off. And since then, I've been searching for a more worthy co-founder, someone that, I think what separated them from me was the vision. I didn't think they caught the vision enough. And that was why they were making those demands about money. So that is my take. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And what you've highlighted has definitely opened the door for us to begin the conversation on selecting a co-founder, right? These cases are very, 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 very heart-wrenching and painful, but it also reveals that we need to be wiser in our decisions. So a lot of the layers I'm going to be laying, a lot of the foundations I'm going to be laying for you today is brick upon brick. And by the time you pull all of that together, you'll be able to see how to ensure that you don't fall in those situations again, and make sure you're taking notes. So first thing is how to select a founder. One of the questions that people ask me is, where do I go to find founders? The moment you are making a decision to go out and find co-founders, there's a very high chance that you may make the wrong decision. Usually your co-founders are already around you even before you show up to them. So let me explain what I mean. When you attend events, when you have meetups, when you're having conversations with people, when you execute on small projects with your colleagues, when you do those little activities that is not necessarily connected to any grand startup, you are actually building relationships. You're getting to know people. And that is a very critical part when it comes to building co-founding relationship. Co-founding relationship is like a marriage, right? And so there's a level of when you approach somebody that you're just meeting for the first time, you have no clue on who they are. You're telling them you want to be a co-founder. There's a very high chance that that person will not necessarily, you will not necessarily know everything about that person. You know, that like the thing about marriage where you marry someone, and then when you get into marriage, then realize there's so much more that you did not know, right? I keep making reference to marriage because it's very, very similar in terms of, you know, the long-term nature of it, right? If you go approach someone that you don't have an already existing relationship with to become your co-founder, there's a very high chance that you might pick the wrong one. But if you have an already existing relationship, maybe you guys have done a small project before, maybe you guys were colleagues at work and you've had opportunity to drink coffee with no you know, perception of fact you're going to go and start a company. You guys are friends. There's some form of relationship that has been built prior. There's a very high chance that you make the right decision. Why? Because you will see and you'll have seen things about the person that the person would have revealed to you unknowingly, just because you guys are in a very calm, cool, or non-co-founder relationship. Do you understand? This is so important. So a big takeaway from this is that make sure that you, as an individual, you're building relationships. Make sure that as an individual, you are attending tech events and just attending for the sake of it, just to meet people, be interested in networking, be interested in expanding your network, in meeting new people, not necessarily because you're looking for co-founders, just because you want to have relationship with people, you want to learn more about what they're doing, you want to build that network, right? Not for the sake of, oh, I was able to network with 50 people this year. No, just for the sake of being a good human being to another person, right? Someone is saying, oh, I'm working on this. You can offer your time to help the person that you met at a tech event, and it's not because you want to start a company, right? You want to start a company together. At your place of work, for those who are currently working, build good relationship with your colleagues. Embark on small little projects. If they offer that, oh, they want to start something together, just embark on a project together. Like in the case of Bombos, the founders of Bombos is a sock company in the US. They do up to $250 million a year just by selling socks, right? And the way they found each other was from the office. The person that had the idea was interning at the place where his co-founder was. And as a matter of fact, when they first you know, met each other, they did not really like each other. And they had conflicts over, like, this person is a loud person at the office and the person is very calm. And so there was that clash. But then they got to meet each other, just had coffee multiple times, became friends. And then when things were happening in the company that was shaking things up, they started to now say, okay, what if we could do something together? And that's how they started the company, right? So this is a very, very important takeaway when building the co-founder relationship. So when you have identified the person and you guys are about to, you know, you're about to make that decision on, you know, selecting the founder, the first thing is you want to establish if the person sees what you see. If the person has a long-term vision, and I say long-term vision because it's so important. There are some people, there's a particular company, MailChimp, is a company called MailChimp, right, in the US, email listing company. And when they first started, right, there were about 3 of them in the team, right? They founded this, they had a consulting business, like a tech consulting business, helping people build websites. But on the side, they started this email business for small businesses, right, to help them sort of build email lists and send emails out, right? And while they were doing the consulting business is very, what's it called? It's not fixed, right? You sometimes after 3 months you don't see money, and then maybe you just jam one major project and then there's massive money. But then they noticed that this particular side project that they were doing together was growing on a hockey stick graph, right? And so they were like, okay, this other thing that we're doing for consulting is not like it's consistent, but this one is consistently growing. Okay, how about we focus on this? So after about a year, one of the team members had to drop. Why? Because the vision at that time for himself, he wanted to build a sustainable family for himself. That's it. But that small business, that side project is not making as much money as the tech consulting. It was very little money, but it was just consistent money that was coming, that they didn't have to put too much effort for it to come. So that was why they were considering it in the first place. But this person wanted to build a sustainable home for his family members, and that was okay. He did not have a long-term vision to continue with them on MailChimp. Now, MailChimp, was bought for 3 billion by Intuit. But at that time, he didn't have the long-term vision. And the other guys stayed behind. Okay? So it's important that you know, and this is something that you even do outside the context. Like I said, your building relationship. You know this person. This person wants to go on and, work in a major tech company. Person doesn't want to join you and build this thing that you're doing. You would know from your informal interactions with the person what the person is aiming. What's my 5-year goal? What's the person's 10-year goal? What does the person really want to achieve out of life? That is already a pointer to the fact that this person possibly doesn't have the same vision, right? Also look at values. Values are very important. The reason why there's a lot of clash, especially financially within a team, is because somebody on the team is just greedy. And that's something you would have spotted if you had built an informal relationship with the person before entering into a co-founder relationship. You would know if the person is just stingy, if the person is greedy. Because those are the signs of someone that can easily just fake figures to put money to himself or herself on the side. So check out for values. What are the things you stand for? What are the things you uphold dearly that cannot be, tampered with? That person must also have the same value, especially if you are the one with the idea and you are the one pulling somebody else into this world that you are building. So yes, there's the part of complementary skills. I cannot, I'm not going to talk on that level. I think it's pretty clear. What you cannot do, the person can do. But also look at commitment and passion. Commitment and passion. Has this person ever committed to a project, or is it somebody that's always complaining about, maybe at your place of work, the person is the person that complains the most about the job, or is the person, there's no project that the person has embarked on consistently for a while? There needs to be a track record of commitment and passion that you can see from the person that is sort of tied to what you guys are going to build together. Then trustworthiness. That is a big thing. Integrity, being reliable as an individual. And guess what? It even shows even in the person's family. Is the person, which I'm going to talk about that, but I think maybe I can even hint on it now. Another thing to also bear in mind when building co-founder relationship is recommendations and references. Do you know his or her family members? What are the family members saying about this person? Because the family members know more about that individual. And this time around, you're not trying to tell them you are looking to build a co-founder. You're just trying to get to know, oh, this boy, that's a bad boy, it does not have sense. They might be saying it jokingly, but you are taking notes. Take note of what other friends are saying about that person. That's how you know the person's character. Character is a very important metric for the success of any co-founding relationship. So you need to be able to test for character and find every way possible to test for the person's character before you say you want to be co-founders. Have you given the person money and forgotten about it, and the person intentionally forgot about it and did not remind you that he gave you money? That's a reflection on the person's character. Look out for ways to test for character, okay? I think I already hinted on communication style, but maybe I'll just mention that when it comes to communication style, you need to know how that person communicates. I went to speak to a group of young people, young people who are trying to decide on like their education, their higher education, right? Invited to speak. And there's this particular young man, after the whole program, I just noticed he was just seated quietly. So I just went to go and meet him. How are you, young man? And then guess what? He spent the next 20-30 minutes talking to me about his life. What did I find out? I found out that person is a quiet person normally. Doesn't talk. He did not say a single word throughout the entire program. right? Because it was a group of this is a small gathering, so you can see everybody, you can hear everybody's voice. This person did not speak a word, but when I went to meet him personally, he had so much to share about what was said during that meeting. So you need to understand people's personality type. You need to understand if this person is the outgoing one, or if you are the outgoing. If person is a calm person, or person doesn't talk much, and for you to know what the person's heart, you have to maybe take the person out. You will need to go outside the confines of a workplace, or whatever context in this case. You need to understand the communication style. Because it happens even in relationship between a man and a woman. The woman wants, as she's talking, the man is taking notes, paying attention fully. But the man may not necessarily be giving attention. So that conflict in communication style can affect even a marriage, how much more you co-found the relationship. People are raised differently. They have different backgrounds, and there are so many traumatic experiences that affect how they interpret life and also affects their communication. There are some people that are introverts because of the kind of family they grew up in. There are some people that are extroverts because of the kind of family they grew up in. So those things are important to bear in mind. So another thing to also think about is the person's industry or network connections, right? Because that's also a very key part for you. If you people are, if you guys don't have a strong advisory board, because even as co-founders, you should have an advisory board, right? So even if at least one person in the team should be able to make phone calls, even if you don't have the connections now, one person in the team should be able to, it has to be that kind of outgoing person that can go out and call people and talk to people and say, let us work together, let us do this. So there has to be that consideration of the person's industry connections, right? Because it opens up possibility for partnerships and opportunities for the company, because that person can open doors in places that you can't do by yourself. That's also something to think about. So I think overall, we can already see that there are some ethical things that you need to think about. Vision, the person's resilience, the person's perseverance, the ability to face challenges. That is also very key. There's some people that cannot near challenges. The challenges cannot near them, because just one touch, they are broken down. So you need to be able to know if the person can, because remember, building a startup is not easy. There are many issues along the way. And as a co-founder, you don't need someone that at the slightest inconvenience, the person is quick to drop the bag and carry his ngongo and start running, right? You need to find someone that can be with you even in tough days. That's the reason why you're co-founders. The person is not an employee, it's a co-founder. It's a long-term marriage, right? And the sooner you spot those things, the easier for you. So now that you have found this person that you think, should be your next co-founder, after assessing all these things, you have found somebody that is suitable. What are the things that what are the steps you need to take to solidify the partnership, and most importantly, lay the right foundation for your relationship? I'm very emphatic on the word foundation. So the first thing is, you guys need to schedule a meeting and have an open and transparent discussion about the expectations, the goals, and the visions you have for the startup. You must make sure that both of you are aligned. Let it not be a situation where it's only one person talking. Let there be that back-to-back conversation from both sides. Okay, this is how I'm thinking about it. What do you think? If you see the light in their eyes, the excitement and the joy is obvious, is evident. It's not the case of I'm nodding my head so that I can finish this conversation, but you can tell. As a matter of fact, they're even giving you ideas. They are painting an even bigger picture for you. They are more excited about it than you. Then you are onto something. So make sure at least that conversation happens. Okay. The next thing you want to do is you have to define your roles and responsibilities. And it's not I did not say title, I said rules and responsibilities. As a matter of fact, at the very early stage, when you guys are 2 or 3, there's usually little or no need for titles. Everybody just says, you are the one that is talking to customer. I am the one that is talking to dispatch rider. Okay, I'm the one putting the books In addition to talking to customers, I'm also in charge of talking to investors. And in addition to talking to drivers, I'm in charge of making sure that the office is clean and managing the interns that are working with us. Responsibilities. Let there be priority on responsibilities and roles over titles, right? You can keep the co-founder title at the very, especially at the very beginning when you're still trying to put things in place. Then, as you begin to build and observe each other's strengths and capacities, there are cases where somebody is coming in, the person is a sales expert. That person has experience in sales and marketing. It's very clear what the person will do. But if it's a case where the person doesn't have a lot of experience, all of you are young together, still discovering yourself, by the time you share tasks and you know what the areas that the person is falling short of, it's okay, the person is not really good at this, maybe you should be good at this. And the person has no desire to grow in that particular area that he or she is not good at, then you give the person what is. Make sure you play according to each other's strengths, okay? Because when you begin to give somebody something that the person cannot do and the person is falling short, do not be surprised, because that will lead towards misaligned expectations, and that can lead to resentment, and who knows what happens from there. So make sure that there is clear roles and responsibilities divided amongst each other based on your area of expertise, based on your past works, based on what you can contribute, to the company. It has to be clear, very specific. Write it down, right? Let it be documented, share it with each other via email. And guess what? Review it as you go. So if along the way you see that there are new things coming up and somebody needs to take up more responsibilities, or somebody needs to release, have conversations again about it. Oh, okay, maybe this person should handle this. It's important. Let that be consistent in your team. And then have discussions on equity distribution. We're going to talk about how to go about it. Equity talks about percentage ownership that each founder has in the company. You still remember, out of the same company, investors are going to take a share. Some of your employees might get a share as well. Some advisors might get a share. So everybody needs to know what is the percentage that we're sharing with this team. And because obviously, as you raise more money, there's dilution. This is not a class for that. There's going to be another class about dilution and so on and so forth. And how investors calculate funding as well, right? I also even highlighted in, I think, module 3 of the startup school as well. Okay, so equity distribution must be discussed and let everybody be comfortable. If anybody is not happy with I'm not happy with the percentage I have, I think I deserve more, address it there and then. We're going to talk about how to do that shortly. And then once you're done, draft a founder's agreement. You can also involve a legal practitioner in this case. When I say legal, not that you can pay somebody, check like a friend. There are specific clauses that you need to put in place. We're going to highlight that, right? That is very essential for your equity distribution. Make sure that agreement is well drafted and everybody is clear, and then you sign. You sign. That's the essence of an agreement document. You must sign it, and everybody's good. Let's start well, okay? Then you develop a communication plan. How are we going to communicate? We need to have a place to relax, have fun, eat, rest, and just chat about our lives. And we also need to have a place where we discuss and strategize about the company. There must be a balance of the two sides. Remember, it's about a relationship. You built this relationship prior. Let it not be that because you started work, you guys don't have time for each other. You don't care if the person has gotten married or it has somebody that is looking at you. Don't care if the lady is already, there's a guy in the picture and very soon they'll get married. You have no care whatsoever over your co-founder. That is not good. You must build a communication plan. It has to be clear. This is how we're going to work. These are many check-ins we're going to have in a week. These are many team meetings we're going to have. These are the systems we're going to put in place to address conflict. I think I gave an example earlier. If we're trying to make a decision and we can't come to a decision, let us throw a dice. Let the dice be our final decider, or let's do pick paper. Let there be a system that you put in place. If you're having conflict over perspective, oh, we're going to get so advisor into the room to help us decide. That's how we address conflict. You must have those systems in place. Then you guys will draft a long-term vision. Okay, this is what we're trying to achieve within the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, so that everybody is clear. This is where we are going to. Everybody's working towards this direction. These are the milestones. This is our responsibility towards this goal. These are the milestones we must achieve. This is, if you guys are going for 100, say, drivers, this person is, maybe, okay, let me use revenue, for example. You're going for 100 million. What will it take for us to get to 100 million? We need 1,000 customers paying us this amount of money. Okay, we also need 200 drivers fulfilling this amount of packages. Okay, we also need to partner with 6, 7, 10 businesses. All right, who is responsible for which? What are our milestones? How are we checking on our progress? That's how you put the structures in place within your co-founding relationship. Okay, this is also very much tied to your financial systems, because now you have to build a budget. You have to know how much you are spending per month on what are the essential expenses that we must cover. Nobody can just come up one day and be like, oh, I need 100K, and there is no system for approval. There's no, okay, everybody is not aware of what you want to take out of the money because you are in charge of the account. Setting up a business account, you can even do a co-signatory, so that everybody is aware and everybody's on the same page with how much is going out and how much is coming in. Let there be a financial reporting system every month. We know how much, and it's not even something that is hidden. Everybody sees that Google Sheet. Any expense that is made is going there. Everybody's seeing it. It's important. It's important. It's important. And also, acknowledge your team members, your co-founders. Get them a gift on their birthdays. Take them out. Visit their family members. Take their children out. Buy them ice cream. Appreciate the partnership you guys have by building a relationship, right? Appreciate it. Appreciate them. Make a conscious effort to do so. All right, so this is so important. I really hope you have taken a lot of notes from this session. I really hope you have taken a lot of notes from this session. So let's go on to the elephant in the room, right? Splitting equity. I think around 3 years ago, I mean, after seeing that this was a problem that popped up very often, I had to build what is called an equity split table. Right. So after today's class, you're going to get access to it. I also created an article to explain how to use it and how to leverage it to split, equity. Right. So within that article, once you read the article, you get the full details, right, of how to split equity. It's very easy to follow through. So, but I'm going to do an overview because of time. There's so much we have to cover. So, when it comes to, splitting equity, the concept of splitting equity, right, is, I mean, there's the clear percentage going, but you are also acknowledging each other's contribution. And you're tying that, because you guys are not investors. You don't have money, but you have skills, you have time. And that contribution, you have network, you have relationship, that contribution is important and it must be acknowledged. And so we find a way to convert it into equity into the business. Okay? You are looking at how much time is invested. You're looking at how much skills and how critical those skills are to the success of the business. Some people might even bring financial contributions. You're looking at that too. You're looking at industry expertise. And you're looking at even tangible and intangible assets. Some of you, like in the case of DoorDash, they had to use their bicycles to do delivery. That's a tangible asset. If maybe in the co-founding team there's only one person that has a bicycle, that's a tangible contribution. And you need to find a way to, associate that and convert that into equity percentage. And then also you need to recognize that it's risky, because there's a particular startup in the UK, right? After, running through the necessary steps, along the way, one of the co-founder, which is also part of greediness, right? Found a way to go through the back door, sell his equity in the business without letting the other co-founders know. And then somebody shows up and like, oh, I have some amount of percentage in the company. It's like, how? Because this person sold it to me at this amount. I was like, you can't sell equity in the business at a particular amount when valuation has not been done. It's not a consensual valuation. You determine that the price of the business is this amount. And so it just created a lot of conflict. So it falls back to the people that you are dealing with, right? Sometimes at the end of the day, it's just prayer. but yeah, you need to understand that it's also risky. So which is why you have to put systems in place. An example of a system that you can put in place is a vesting schedule. How many of you have heard of a vesting schedule before? I'm putting in the chat box. How many of you have heard of a vesting schedule? All right, so a vesting schedule is important in calculating, because after you're done calculating how much equity, like I said, that table is going to help you. It's very easy. It's simple mathematics, right? And there's a full article on how to go about it. So, but the vesting schedule is after you've done the calculation and you say, okay, this person owns 25.5, that person owns 5.5 or 6.5%. You still need to put vesting schedules in place for everybody. And what does that mean? A vesting schedule consists of two things: a 1-year cliff and a 4-year period of vesting. And it's common practice, right? It basically helps every co-founder earn the equity over time. So let's say you own 25%, that other person owns 25%. We divide that 25% by 4. What is that? What's 25 divided by 4? That's maybe 5.1-ish thereabouts. So let's say we split 5.2% over 4 years. And then we also have a 1-year cliff. So let's say we start in the year 2025. This covers everybody. Nobody's exempt from this. Okay. So everybody agrees to a vesting schedule of a 1-year cliff and a 4-year period, saying that when we start working on this company in the year 2025, for 1 year, we're not going to own a single equity in the business. We don't own a single equity for 1 year. Then after 1 year, we now begin to earn based on how many years we spend in the company. So the first year after the 1-year cliff, we earn, if we work for 1 year fully, we earn 5.2%. The next year, we add that 10.4%. The next year, so that if the person decides to leave, maybe you start working together in January, and the next month, the person says, I'm not doing again because of the risk associated with co-founding relationship. The person is going away with 25% just like that, because you have not put in a vesting schedule. So a vesting schedule protects everybody. Protects everybody in the team. Like I said, it is not only one person that is involved in this. Everybody's involved. Okay. So you, the person that had the idea, you too, you are subject to a vesting schedule. Okay. And it's good because, everybody, there's some form of trust that happens. Instead of just saying, oh, I'm the only one, I have my own 25%, but you, because I don't trust you. Now that's what it means. You give somebody vesting schedule and you don't have vesting schedule, it means I don't trust you, right? So vesting schedule ensures that at least 5 years, for the person to get that 25%, the person needs to spend 5 years in the company before they can get 25%. So take notes. That should be part of your founder's agreement, a vesting schedule. Okay? And make sure that you think about future fundraising. This is something that will be discussed in your session with, I think that is there's a session on financial modeling, right? You need to understand how fundraising rounds work. There is also, yes, we have SDC Startup School. Yes, we have a session of that. I think that should 2 or so. Yeah. We talked about dilution. Anytime you raise money, your percentage in the company goes down. Every time you raise additional funding, new people collect equity, your equity in the business goes down. So you need to think about it long term, so that by the time you are done raising money in Series A, at the Series A funding, you now have 1%, and your investors have like 20%, and you just have 1%. Do you understand? Well, I don't know. That doesn't sound very nice. I mean, statistics shows, there's data showing that many founders exit companies without taking a single naira away, or in this case, dollars away. I talked about that at module 2. So make sure I hope you have logged into Startup School and you started learning there, right? Because those things that will be with us there at the foundation. So we talked about why that's the case. We talk about why, founders are leaving, like they exit from a company, at the sale of the company, and they are not taking a single dollar home. There's a reason why that's the case. So we talked about it there. All right. So think about future rounds when you are splitting equity as well. That is also discussed in the agreement, in the equity split table article, right? And so make sure that as you're splitting the equity, make sure that everybody is motivated, because equity is a very big deal, especially in co-founder relationship. Make sure there's some form, there's a balance, it's fair, it's motivating. I'm inspired to contribute my time and energy and my life to this idea that was not bettered by me, was bettered by somebody else. But I love it, I want to be part of it, and I'm going to be sort of compensated for my contribution with this equity split. Okay, so this is super, super important. Like I said earlier, after the class, you get access to a link that teaches you on how to split equity. It's a breakdown step by step, showing you the calculations. There's an Excel table where you fill in, you can practice with your team. There's a process on how you execute it. All of that is taught in that document, so you get access to it. Now, when it comes to defining roles, right? I mean, there's the popular one, CEO, COO, CFO, but just to break it down, because I think it's really important to realize what you're capable of doing, what you're not capable of doing. Like the person I highlighted, this person was great at dev and wasn't capable of doing operations, but the person took on the COO title. So, like I said earlier, distribute based on responsibilities and not based on titles. I give an example of another founder, which you're going to meet, the founder of MyStash. He was willing to hand over the CEO title to somebody else. Why? Because that person had the characteristics and the abilities of a CEO more than him. And so he wasn't feeling bad that he had to let go of that title to the other person, because the person can handle it. Because being a CEO means that you are responsible for major corporate decisions. You are responsible for major corporate decisions and overall operations of the company. You are responsible for thinking about the vision, setting the vision for the company and its future. Even though all of you, are working together on it, but you're the one that sort of paints that picture clearly, even down to the employees, right? Because you are at the forefront. You're the one most likely interacting with investors. So this is where CFOs do that, representing the company right out there. So that person needs to have leadership skills, communication skills, people skills. So anybody on your team that is already reflecting that, put the person at the forefront. You don't have to be there. Let the person do it. You don't think the person will outshine you. It's not necessary. If you think about some of the co-founding teams that I showed you guys earlier, there are people that are more at the forefront than the others. In the case of Microsoft, we see more Bill Gates than Paul Allen. In the case of Airbnb, we see more Brian Chesky than his two co-founders, right? So understand who has the capacity to lead, direct the vision of the company, handle decision situations. That person has capacity to handle challenges. If somebody on the team can do that much, give that person the CEO title. The person is able to sort of adapt and lead changes within the company at the various stages of work, because you're growing, you're adapting, and you need somebody that can that's quick thinking, thinks on their feet. Trust me, you will know the person on your team. You will know when you're not the one. And when you're not the one, be willing to give the other person. Unlike the COO is responsible for day-to-day operations. So you see more the person on things around, having to deal with people, people management, employees, operations, even, production, marketing, handling like the execution of the work, ensuring that the goals are met. Do you understand? So that's a COO role. It might seem tight, but it's not tight. So the CEO establishes the vision, goes out there, communicates it to the relevant stakeholders, puts the meeting together. But the COO is now like the manager. So the CEO is like the leader and the COO is like the manager. You need to know how to handle operations, organizational skills, project management skills. Anybody that's beginning to reflect this or has handled things like that, the person is a COO. The person is able to develop, is able to turn like strategy. So while the CEO is developing vision and strategy for the year, the COO is turning that strategy into actionable plans. And you will know that person that is on the team that is always like, whenever you guys have like discussion, the person is able to summarize and provide next steps and action plan. That's your COO there, right? And the person is able to oversee execution, knows how to use Excel sheets to review what should be done per time, knows how to handle, operations, processes, bringing efficiency to the team, especially when it comes to operational challenges. That is your COO. Don't confuse the person with the CEO title. The CFO is pretty clear, right? Money man or money woman. The person handles the financial or analyzes the financial risk, analyzes data, make sure that we are on point, keeps record, keeps track of the taxes, gets funding in some cases, right? Where CEO supports the founder in getting funding, in managing those investor relationships, sending reports to investors, in budgeting. If teams want to buy or do anything, they have to go through this particular person. If you guys are trying to close a sale or trying to close a deal, the person is there analyzing this next 18 months. So we the person is and for CFO, you need somebody that is very, very honest and has good integrity. So it's a very critical role. We also need somebody that has analytical skills, and is able to sort of run through numbers very quickly on behalf of the team. On the CTO side, it's pretty clear. The person is great with technology. The person can build an entire platform overnight if you give the person all the required, maybe Monster or Red Bull energy drink. The person will just walk through. The person is great at technical stuff. So the person can lead the technology and the innovation strategies. The person can help the company remain, technologically advanced and competitive and ahead. Do you understand? So I'm coming back to the comment section. How does vested schedule relate? I think I already said that. I was talking about co-founding teams and not solo founding teams. In solo founding teams, you own 100% of the shares. You're not sharing with anybody. Vesting only applies in a co-founding team. I remember the difference between a co-founding team and a solo founding team is the equity, the ownership percentage that is happening. So you don't need its name. You are the only one. You cannot vest it. It's you. You are the only one. When it's time to raise money, your percentage you dilute, but you're the only one. There's no vesting, right? Okay, so like I was saying, for CTO, the person is driving innovation. Technology is pretty clear. The tech person, that person is just great for the job. I think those ones you can't hide it. It's very obvious what they are passionate about. It's very different for what normal people are passionate about, right? What you're capable of doing, and it's just very unique to them. So you should know who your CTO is. And also your CTO also needs to be somebody that can lead a team, because as you grow, yes, the person might be doing the work by himself, but the person needs to grow from being the engineer to being the lead engineer, from being the lead engineer to being the CTO, because on the CTO level, you're not going to be supervising the execution of the technology, right, or the innovation across many teams. Okay, you have more developers, you have more software developers, you need that person to be able to handle it. So obviously, as expected, you should be growing. You should be growing in your knowledge. You should be growing in your skills. If you know you are coming into the shoes of a sales price now, maybe you guys are because you don't have many people that can, but you got into the shoes. Go and acquire skills. Join a course. Join somewhere. Have somebody that can be your mentor in that operations, because you have to deliver on your team. Don't use the excuse of saying, oh, there's nobody that can do it, so I decided to take it up, and don't expect anything miraculous from me. If you guys are constrained, then you should take the proactive approach of building capacity. I'm looking at the time. Ooh, okay. So those are the most common ones. I mean, there are other ones like there's chief legal officer, it's very necessary. Someone who will be responsible for handling, legal relationship. At the very beginning, you might not need the person, but as you go on, you need that. You definitely need that. Okay, especially if you're building in industries where compliance, laws, and regulations are essential, like health tech, like fintech. You definitely need somebody who is strong on that side. You may not get the person as like a co-founder. You might have one person on the team that can handle that area. Maybe the CEO can start acquiring skills and capacity to handle that, and then when you guys grow into a stronger team or more team, you can now make somebody the head of legal. Doesn't have to be a co-founder. Okay, so but that legal conversation is important. Someone who is responsible for like drafting contracts, negotiating deals, identifying like legal. Talk about. All right. Wow. Do you guys have? Can we give 20 minutes more? We have a long way to go, or we just have a part 2. What do you think? Should we have a part 2 of this class? Should we have a part 2, or we should just do extra 20 minutes? Or I should finish co-founding relationship? Chat box, I see people putting thumbs up. I'm not sure which one you're going for. Majority will have the votes. We're almost done, just like 7 pages more, but maybe I should finish. Let me finish co-founding. Managing company culture can be another day. All right. So we'll do part 2 of managing company culture, and today we'll just wrap up this. Okay. So we'll talk about defining roles. Let's now talk about maintaining the energy, because you might find the right person. You guys may have the right agreements, everything is set. Everybody knows their responsibilities, but if you do not actively work on motivating the team, on maintaining the energy in the team, after a while, things will fizzle out. Cracks will begin to show up. Relationship is broken. Okay, and guess what? The maintaining the energy is not the sole responsibility of the CEO or the person that had the idea. It's everybody's responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility. So in the case of, I said, taking people out or celebrating each other on the birthday, yes, as a CEO, it's expected that you buy something for each of your co-founders, but you, on the other end, you should be able to buy something for your CEO and for other people on your co-founding team. Okay, so it's everybody's responsibility. I think it's important for me to lay that foundation. It's everybody's responsibility to maintain the co-founding relationship. Okay, and it's something that you keep. It's not a one-time process. It's a continuous process. It's a continuous process. So remember I talked about having meetings and times where you guys have check-ins. Those are very good platforms for communication to happen, right? Have like a WhatsApp group These are not your team members. This is just for you and your co-founder. No staff is there, no intern, no volunteer is there, just you and your co-founders. Where you talk about things, where you see something online, maybe even see an Instagram reel, a funny video or something that you think will inspire each other or your co-founders can relate to. You shared week. So the only way somebody would willingly, there's already an existing, you by leading by example, you sharing your own challenges will show that okay, this is a safe space. And remember you guys have built a relationship prior and communication was already happening, so it shouldn't be hard to continue from where you stop. Okay, but now you guys are not talking about challenges regarding the company. So if regarding finance you realize that, oh, I made a mistake, I fell short, there should be an environment for that person to be able to open up, because that's how these things grow. Maybe the person didn't want and wanted to talk, but the tension, the intensity of your team, you guys are so hardworking, you don't have time to connect. You give no room for the person to open up, right? You don't have a forgiving heart. Everybody's keeping things to their chest. That's how you create a very nasty environment for yourselves. Okay, let there be communication that helps build trust. You should go out together once in a while. Just go and sit down on Jangilova and enjoy a breeze together. Do you understand? Think about it as a dating relationship. Okay, make sure that you are constantly communicating the goals and visions, right? Because yes, when you started, the person might have the same perspective, but life can happen. There's a particular team that I got to support. One of them so all three of them are actually in university. The person I was passionate about the idea university as well, but they got to that point in their life when they got to like 500 level, that point where your whole world is before you. One of the co-founders, the parent was like, no, you have to go and do masters, and your masters is not in this country, it's abroad. And so all the while, he didn't know how to bring it up to his team members that it made that vision that we had together, where I was excited about, I am constrained. I have to do what my parents are saying. There's some other cases where you can even be in marriage. Your wife is like, no, you must not, we need to think about our incoming baby. Maybe the person is having a child, and because of this child, you have to think about care, start giving money. Pregnancy is also a very critical stage in the journey. When women are pregnant, it's a very different world entirely for them. You need to put systems in place to ensure that they can communicate how they are feeling in the moment, so that their specific and unique situations can be accommodated, right? In the case maybe you guys started together, you were single. Now you have reached a stage where everybody's getting marriage. Now is a very critical factor to consider in your co-founding relationship. The list goes on and on. So make sure that you're constantly reassessing your perception on the goals and visions for your life. Traveling abroad, to live abroad, but Japa syndrome. Okay, what's Japa? And you'll be working remotely. That's the discussion you need to talk about. You need to have. I think I already highlighted it. To maintain the energy, you have to recognize people and appreciate them. They did something well, talk about it. Talk about it to each other. That guy or this lady did this well, Celebrate your small wins, your victories, your milestones together. Even as a company, like, oh, even though we did not make 100 million, but we did 2,000 naira. Last month it was 0 naira, but now we're doing 2K. That's huge. Okay, celebrate. Let that be a motivation. You know, record your growth, record your journey, so that you can look back and be like, oh, we've come from somewhere. We've been at this for a while. Celebrate it. Set realistic expectations. Set realistic expectations. A lot of the things I'm talking about now is for co-founding relationship. When we go to company culture, we'll talk about highlight a few things for those who are in the solo founding team, right? But a lot of these principles are also applicable there. Set realistic expectations. Don't let nobody be frustrated. Don't give somebody a goal that is bigger than their capacity. Do you understand? Let everybody know what they're capable of and fulfill according to push. Let the person come to that place mentally before you give that person that goal. If it means communicating with the person over and over in sort of painting the vision, I think we can do 2 billion. What do you think? I think we can do 2 billion. If the person does not think he can do 2 billion, don't give the person 2 billion as a target. You will be frustrated. So you need to have moments. Either you share images or companies that have done 2 billion, you know, show what we can do if we get 2 billion. The person's motivation is family. You know, if we do 2 billion, we can be able to take care of our families. Make sure the person comes to that place mentally. When the person gets to that place mentally, then you know that you guys will be able to do it. And there has to be some form of autonomy. Don't try and get into another person's work. If the person is responsible for that work, leave the person, let them be doing the work. Don't try and help the person. If the person did not ask for your help, give people the chance to do what you have told them to do, right? Ownership. And in a co-founding relationship, it's not a staff-employee relationship. It's you are mates. In this case, even though you are the one that came up with the idea, you guys are equals. Even though you people don't have the same equity, you are a co-founder. You should respect the person's contribution. You should esteem the person. Like, he's also a human being, for Christ's sake. Don't shout. Why would you be shouting at your co-founder? Even employees, why would you even do that? Respect the person as a human being first. Before you start talking about the fact that you guys are co-founders. Make sure you consider their opinion. Their input matters. Make sure you create an inclusive environment for decisions to be made. Engage in team building activities. I think I'm emphasizing the game because some people don't get it. Some people really don't get it. Engage in activities that can build your bond. Build your bond. And once in a while, if somebody does really well, let the company bless the person for doing well. You get what I mean? If the person did a sales, maybe you guys had the target for 100 million, but the person did 1 billion. And the person's salary was 200K according to the agreement and structure that has been put in place. But the fact that the person got 1 billion, you know, agree as a co-founding team that this person deserves 300K and nobody should feel bad because the person did well for the company. So putting those systems in place is very important. These are just some of the very important things you need to put in place, right? When thinking about maintaining the energy, maintaining the motivation. And guess what? If your co-founders maybe have things that they're passionate about that they want to do, like side projects, at least within reasonable bounds. Obviously, you know that they cannot do anything that is competing with what you're doing, right? But make sure if the person likes maybe hiking, the person likes swimming. If you have the money, pay for 1 month subscription at a swimming pool or gym. Do you understand? Allow the person to explore things that they're passionate about so that they will not have burnout. Because you can work and not play makes they say Jack a dull boy. I would say all work and no play makes Jack burnout. Okay, you need to be able to allow your brain relax, and so allowing your co-founders to engage in those activities. I would wrap up here. I would wrap up here at this point. Hopefully, if time permits, if there's an opportunity this month, well, in the program, because there's no plan for a part 2, but if there's an opening, I will come and teach on managing company culture. But I think with what we've learned today, we've learned enough to know what to do, right? When it comes to teams, right? So any questions as we wrap up? Any questions? Okay, Darlington, I see your hands are up. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. First and foremost, I just want to appreciate you for this amazing class. It's been very insightful and power packed. So I'll just go straight to the question, not to waste anybody's time here. In the case where you talked about the co-founding relationship, like selecting the co-founder. Now, for example, I have a co-founder already, and we are in separate parts of the world. How do we manage our relationships, like in terms of getting to know this person very well? Like you said, looking out for values, commitment, passion, and the other things, that the character, the family, and those other key things to look out for, to know more about this person. So how do we really go about that? Like, for example, I'm in Abuja and my co-founder is in Lagos, or let's say outside the country. So how do we get to manage this relationship online? That's
a
the
good question. So I think my question to you is, did you know the person prior to the proposition of being a co-founder? Were you guys in a cordial relationship prior?
No. Like I opted in for the individual track, so we got paired together.
Okay. You're talking about the startup track itself, right? You're talking about the Launchpad program. If the person is in a different.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll give my answer in two forms. I'll give my answer in the non-Launchpad program context. So if maybe there's this friend of yours, you've known each other, and you think the person will be a good founder, but the person is living in a different state or country entirely. First of all, you need to understand that being in two different states creates opportunity for global expansion or nationwide expansion. So that's already like a very good plus, right? So if you guys want to scale to another city, it's easier because somebody's already there. Second is, how do you now manage this inter-country or interstate relationship, especially because you're not longer in the same space, right? So first level is knowing the kind of person he or she is. Like I said, you built relationship prior, so you know his or her friends, family members, and those details that you got from interacting with those people give you an idea of where that person is going. So maybe you guys were friends prior, or you were colleagues prior, and you know the person has the capacity to handle specific things, right? But you don't know if the person will be a great co-founder. You don't know the person's character. You have to find out from colleagues. The person is working somewhere, find out from colleagues, what kind of person is he, find out from family members. You need to find people that know him, that can give you a sense of who they are. And this same principle applies even in investor relationship, right? If you're looking for investors, talk to the people that the investors have invested in to know the kind of character or approach that investor has, right? So it's still the same principle. So let's say you've done that and you can tell that this person is a good, from what even especially because if you guys have not been talking before and things like that. So now you accepted that you guys will be co-founders. How do you build that relationship? There's virtual party. There's the concept of virtual party. There are platforms like Kahoot. There are platforms like Mentimeter that allows you guys to play games virtually. Find out what kind of, even have the discussion with each other. Okay, what systems can we put in place to ensure that we're not always working every time? What can we do together? Can even decide to watch a movie together, if you guys have, or watch football together, if it's football that you love, right? Or watch a movie together. Don't decide on behalf of your team, of your co-founder. Both of you should have a conversation about it to say, what can we do that can ensure that, what can we do to keep communication in check for work, but also communication in check for things outside of work. You can even go out. Both of you can go out, but you do video call as you're going out. Or think about it like a typical relationship. You're having video call maybe 2, 3, 4 times. Maybe 2/3 of your entire days you're on video call, because that's how you work together, especially if you guys are actively building on something, because you're ideating around the concept, around a lot of things. So you're constantly doing video call or not, right? So just have conversations on what systems work, because we have to keep communications in check. Okay, I trust this helps.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem. All right. Do you have shares to advisors, and how do you compensate them? Yes. So when it comes to that was something that I thought I have the chance to talk about. When it comes to compensating advisors, right? Yes, there is equity, 0.5, 1%. You can even do investing schedule for them. I mean, 1%, 2% highest. It shouldn't be too much. Maximum. But 5% is even too much, depending on who they are, right? If there are some strong people that can give you access to a lot of relationships, then you need to compensate them for their time. Other ways, apart from equity, will be stipends. Especially if the company is making money, you provide stipends. Other cases, you can provide perks. Right? So if you're a company, maybe you're into agriculture and you do yams, once in a while, send yam to them. Send like some tubers. So this can be perks from the company or other benefits that you think would be really good for them, because advisors are giving their time and energy, and you want to be able to compensate them for that time and energy. But they also know that you don't have the capacity to do a lot, but they know what you are capable of doing. So do according to your capacity, but make sure that you are open and clear about it very early on, and be sure that they are open and they are fine with it. There's some advisors that don't take equity. They don't take equity in the bank. There's some advisors that take equity and take stipends. Some advisors focus on the perks the company has. Maybe the company is doing something really, really nice, be technology or non-technology, they can just get the benefits from there. So just have conversations about it. I hope this helps answer your question. And then you make a formal agreement to that effect. If I have time, if there is another session on managing culture, I might talk about startup advisors, working with advisors, or building an advisory board, because every company should have an advisory board. If you don't have one, you start thinking about it. All right. Thank you so much. Wow. At the beginning of the session, we had 32 people. Now we have 24. Interesting. Well, we just started the journey. Let's see who would be there at the finish line, the final day, right? So, but well done to every one of you for your consistency and for your attention during the class. As expected, at the end of this session, send on the group your lessons, what you've gained, what you've learned from this battle, what stood out for you, so that other people can also draw insight, and those that weren't around can even draw some insight from what you observed and what you learned. All right, congratulations. I think I can let you guys go, and I don't think there's anything you guys need to do again. Christine?
Okay. Thank you everybody for joining. So if you've signed up to SDC Startup School, if you've logged in, can I get a reaction? Yes, thank you. And if you've not signed up or you've not logged in also, please let me get a reaction if you've not signed up also. Okay, I'm sure you'll do that after today's class. So thank you everybody for joining. And just as Cynthia said, after this session now, just put on the group chat, because I'm sure you learned 10 or 100 things, a lot of things. Even myself, I've learned a lot of things. So just put on the group chat what you learned also. All right, thank you everybody for joining.
Okay. Regarding the last question, just before you go, shares. So thing about shares for staff, I talked about it at the startup school. So make sure you listen to that. I talked about it a lot. It's called stock options. The idea of the stock options or the pool, the equity pool, is the standard. How it works is that they don't necessarily get that share that you're giving to them, right? With the stock options, is that you have the opportunity to own this percentage in the company. Now, when it's time for you to actually own that percentage in the company, you are to bring certain amounts. You have to buy that share for a part at the share price that it was given. So you see, that's why a lot of founders, you make decisions, you're not even aware of the full context of what it means, right? So go to that module, I think module 2 or module 3, where we talked about investment, right? I talked a lot about how it works. When you give your employees stock options, you're not necessarily giving them percentage, you're giving them the right to purchase, the opportunity, the option to purchase a particular equity, in the case 10%. They will now buy at a certain price. That guide, go back to your team, re-explain everything, what it actually means, make sure that there's now like a clear standard, stock options agreement that you guys have. All right, then, take care of yourself and have a great evening. You have. All right. See you on Thursday. All right. Bye.